Peter and I are extremely happy to be here and to talk with you today. Fortunately, I've been able to sit through this entire session today, and I've heard some really incredible stuff, especially when we're talking about new products, bringing new products to market, what that's going to require, making sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And one of the things that we want to talk with you about today from the Within3 standpoint is how to communicate through all of these areas. You know, the key to all of this is communication with your KOLs, with your HCPs, with your steering committees, with your clinical trials. These are all areas that Within3 is going to be able to help you with in really engaging that key customer. Like I said, whether it's the FDA, whether it's a KOL, whether it's a rep out there in the field that just needs some more training and education on a specific product, we're going to be able to help you do that in a compliant virtual technology. So I am happy to be here. Again, as I said, my name is Kim Hale. I'm based out of Salt Lake City, and I have Peter Gannon here with me as well, our Senior Vice President of Business Partnerships, and I'm going to turn it over to Peter for the initial portion of this presentation.
Peter? Yes, I muted myself, and I think we've probably all experienced a little of that, certainly in the last 8 months or so. So thank you for the opportunity to speak with you folks today. So as Kim mentioned, this might be a little bit different from some of the other presentations today. We're going to introduce to you a technology platform that hopefully you can see in terms of how this might support any of your communication objectives, whether it's to Kim's point, in engaging audiences that are external to your organization or internal to your organization. We've seen over the last 10 or 12 years or so, this type of solution in particular can be very effective in terms of allowing you to generate, very deep, rich insights, deep, rich feedback, maintain relationships across multiple time zones and multiple continents, and can really be a great conduit for engaging your customer segments. And so we're basically going to touch on some of the things that are affecting more of the kind of gross adoption of these types of technologies in the world today. What does that digital collaboration of this ilk specifically look like? What is going to happen, right, in terms of digital engagement and how that might be affected by kind of the recent turn of events and what maybe the next 6 to 12 to 18 months might hold for that. We definitely want to touch on a case study that'll illustrate the utilization of this within a medical device company, and hopefully leave some time for questions and discussion. So with that, what we do is we are a 12-year-old software company, and we engineered a specific set of technology for the life sciences industry. So we know that the industry as a whole is driven by very, very strong regulatory and compliance parameters, and each organization has their own interpretations of those. And so it's critical when setting up technologies to be cognizant of the individual policies of each company that we engage with, and then how those policies also change when you're doing things here in the States, or if you're doing things in Europe, or if you're doing things in Asia Pacific markets. There's all variables that will affect the way that the technology needs to behave, the way the data is warehoused, and the ways that you kind of engineer these solutions to, basically map to your organization's rules of engagement, while making sure that it's a seamless experience for your users. Otherwise, you risk that you'll alienate them. And we feel like we've done this very successfully over the last 10, 12 years or so. So on the next slide, you'll see just a little bit deeper detail about the type of platform this is. So the key difference between, let's say, a Within3 solution and let's say a solution like we're using right now is a Zoom component, is Zoom requires everybody to be online at the same time, right? And so, that can be challenging when you're trying to engage with people across multiple time zones, or if you have a lot of content that is going to require them to be online for an extended period of time, or if you have people in different dialects and different languages, this can present some challenges. I think we'll all probably agree that Zoom is fantastic, but probably in the last 8 months, you might experience a little bit of zoomed out in terms of the volume and the frequency that you're being asked to participate in these. And so this offers a different way of engaging. This creates an environment where people can come in, let's say, over a prescribed period of time, and engage with the content that you want them to, not only the content, but engage with other people that are part of that same conversation. So fantastic for advisory boards or internal training and steering committees and market research and different types of use cases, as we'll illustrate through today's discussion. And you can engage pretty much any audience. We've seen our clients engage, healthcare professionals of all different specialties, and allied healthcare professionals, patients, payers, and internal use cases with their own, kind of MSLs and sales forces. So it's critical to when you're evaluating these types of solutions, also make sure that they're going to be able to map to your compliance components. And so, as you've seen kind of illustrated on the slide here, these are a lot of pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies. We have a number of different medical device companies that are coming onto the platform now. But as you know, right, the way that these companies work demands, kind of the level of scrutiny that is probably apparent within your organizations in terms of adherence to policies and compliance and regulatory. So that is a critical component of what we do. This is a worldwide platform. You can support conversations in multiple languages with an automatic translation feature. And this kind of lends itself to the thinking of how organizations are adopting these things, not necessarily for a tactical solution for a one-off, but really recognizing these types of solutions as a strategic capability for their organization to engage, across a typical product development lifecycle. Kim, on the next slide. So, unfortunately, the world has changed, certainly since the January, February timeframe here in the United States, and certainly around this time last year in China and APAC. One of the outcomes that's interesting is this has really kind of pushed a harder shift and almost a more of a dependence on digital and virtual stakeholder engagement. And so with, kind of the current state of the state, right, the hope is that this is going to resolve itself in the next 6-12 months, but no one really knows. And then you also don't know kind of what the policies with regards to travel, the availability and the willingness of people to travel to live meetings is going to be. And so from everything that we're seeing, at least from our side, the landscape has changed in terms of the need for digital engagement and the continuance and the evolution of digital engagement in this industry with your different key customer segments. So it's not just us, right? The CEO of Microsoft is readily acknowledging that just the kind of stratospheric speed in which things are morphing and transforming over to digital and kind of remote engagement. And so again, with this quote here, I think it may be kind of reinforcing, I think, what a lot of us has probably already seen in our business is that, more and more people are going to be working from home, more and more people are going to be working remotely. And so if you have different types of technologies that you can mix into the way that you engage folks, that potentially is ideal as opposed to the monotony of using the same technology over and over and over again. So again, just some more numbers to support the fact that, even in a post-COVID-19 world, you're going to have a higher degree of your employees and your workforce working remotely, about a 20% uptick there. And just based upon some polling with respects to how medical communications or how medical companies are going to utilize virtual technologies, you certainly see a fair share of them really kind of saying, yes, we are definitely going to be using these a bit more. And we've seen that evidenced by the growth and scale of the number of programs their clients are doing across their product life cycle, and the different types of use cases that are being born to help them achieve their different objectives. So the next slide, Kim, I think is a deeper dive into what effective digital engagement looks like. Kim's going to walk us through some of the components of our software that we wanted to highlight, just to give you kind of a baseline of what a user experience might be like, and then we'll dive into a case study to contextualize how this kind of works in your world.
Thanks, Peter. And one of the key word here obviously highlighted is effective digital engagement. We've all had very non-effective engagements over our lifetime, especially in the medical industry. You know, right now, as Peter mentioned, all of us have sat on probably 4 or 5 Zoom calls a day, and thank heavens that we have it. I mean, there's no question about that. You know, the fact that I'm able to sit here and talk with you today, share my slides and my information is a testament to what, you know, Zoom has given us and the webcasts have given us, you know, over the past year. But now as we begin to move forward with these multiple Zoom calls on a daily basis, I kind of threw this in here just to let us see where after about the 5th hour of a Zoom call, this is probably the position that most of us find ourselves in. And the fact that even Harvard Business Review say there's now such a thing as Zoom fatigue is pretty amazing. The fact that I was reading an article the other day that said that most of us can only sit for about 21 minutes before we start to lose that engagement and that focus that we have on that initial call. And so let's kind of step back just for a quick moment though, because what I would really love to be doing with all of you right now is sitting in a live meeting. You know, we're in a conference room or at a hotel, there's vendor booths outside, there's lunch being served, there's all of this is taking place, and I miss those days of the live meetings, because during those live meetings, you could actually look people in the eye. You could nod nod your head. They would nod back. You could see what their body language was like and what they were doing. And so, you know, I miss those days, as I'm sure we all do. But at the same time, we just don't have that capability right at this point in time. And I don't think any of us are really sure as to what's going to take place over the next 12 months or so. So we do have the capability of now moving on to the webcast side of things, being able to talk with people, you know, over Zoom calls. And that's a great tool in and of itself. But what about people's schedules? What about time zones? You know, you have 10 people scheduled for a Zoom call and only 6 of them show up. And so you record the call and you hope that they're going to actually watch it down the road. But then how about giving people some time over time meetings where they can come in at their leisure, that they can come in their native language and they can answer questions, they can talk. They can be a part of something that is a convenient thing for them, as opposed to having to fit something in a specific time frame and hope that everybody else shows up. And as Peter mentioned earlier, this gives us the capability of greater insights because more people are going to be participating. I don't know if any of you ever have sat in on a Zoom call or even a live meeting for that matter, and 1 or 2 people took over the entire conversation. And you were kind of embarrassed to even say anything, though you really had some important things you wanted to offer. You just didn't want to interrupt somebody else or have somebody look at you and go, well, that was really a stupid comment. This gives the capability of being able to come in at your discretion and really participate, which is going to be offering greater market insights on each of your devices, on each of the questions, on each of the forums that you're proposing. So what we have at Within3 is we have online discussion platforms. Now we have multiple different platforms as well, but this is our most used platform. In this case, it's a medical device. It's a fictitious company called Benez, and they're holding a forum on medical device insights. They've got a new device that's going to be coming to market. They would like to know some more answers to that. In these rooms, we can have one person or we can have multiple people in these rooms. We can have sessions running simultaneously. So if you have a couple of different insight forums that you would like to get information from, they can both be running at the same time. We also have resource rooms, collaboration rooms, different rooms that people can use with which to get your message out there. Our rooms have moderators that are assigned to them. We usually always have a clinical moderator and also a moderator from the company themselves to make sure that the information, that the questions, and that the conversation is going the direction you would like to see it go. We can have quantitative questions. So our multiple choice questions, let's say as a presenter, or as a moderator, or as a company, you had an idea of where you thought the conversation was going to go, but through being able to actually see the information and the feedback gained from these multiple choice questions, you now can see in this specific example that cost and training time are 2 of the most important things that are attributed to these physicians. So what it does is it begins to allow you to kind of change direction, maybe answer or ask some new questions that maybe you hadn't thought of prior to the discussion room going live. And it also gives us the ability to have document annotation, being able to annotate a PowerPoint document, an Excel spreadsheet, whatever it is that you would like to have input on from your advisory board, whether it's a patient advisory board, KOL, HCP, rep, whatever it might be, whoever might be involved in the room. It gives us the ability to annotate these documents and also be able to help co-author specific white papers or papers that are looking to be published. You can have people come in and make comments, and then as moderators, you can accept or can reject these comments as they're moving forward. Now, Within3 has a worldwide global footprint. We want to make sure that you have the most successful experience within these sessions as you possibly can have. You know, we want to make sure that you get 100% participation from all the people that are involved within each one of these discussion forums. And so we have people based all around the globe to help you to make sure that people are taken care of, to make sure the sessions are running smoothly, even down to the point of making sure that the questions are asked correctly. So again, you get the biggest contribution that you possibly can have. And out of that, you can begin to see some of the participant sentiment that we have gained, over the years. People love the fact that they can come in at their leisure. They love the fact that the information that is being gathered is going to exceed their expectations. One of the things I see all the time is the fact that people got more information than they ever thought they would have, and far more information than they would have gotten from a live meeting or a webcast. So again, be able to see the sentiment, to be able to see, what is being gained by having this discussion over time is really simply amazing. And so what we'd like to do here next is to be able to present to you just a case study that we did with a medical device company, and I'm going to turn it back over to Peter, for this presentation.
Great, thank you, Kim. So yeah, we wanted to contextualize this a bit further. So think about some of the themes that we heard today. I've got a product that's in development, or we're starting to do some research on the development of a device. That device is kind of moving along towards gaining the necessary approvals and entering the market. So that was the situation with this particular client of ours, a medical technology device company. They were seeking a way to engage their kind of external audiences, that ultimately the physicians that would be prescribing this device for an imbalance disorder, and they really needed to understand what the current kind of mainstay was. What were the concerns? What are the concerns about existing treatment options? What are the concerns about what are the resources that are out there to address this particular issue, and understand kind of the different resources and assets that healthcare professionals have when they're kind of evaluating this particular disorder and how to address it. And they wanted to engage their set of advisors over the course of 2 weeks in this case. And they didn't just want to do, let's say, an asynchronous discussion thread-based room. They felt it was really important to kick that off with a 1-hour webcast, right? Which is very common, right? So we see more and more folks or clients that have, let's say, we had a 1.5-day meeting that was planned for the Dallas Marriott in mid-September. We can't do that anymore. We want to take that 8 hours of content and port it to a virtual setting. The way we want to do that is not necessarily, keep everybody in front of their computer for 9 hours straight, but we want to kind of break it up into pieces and say, okay, hey, here's a live touch point via a webcast. Now we're going to open up the asynchronous room so that people can log in, participate in discussion threads, help edit documents and things of that sort. And so this company chose to do that as well. I think they actually did two orientation webcasts, which is very much part of the way that we operate as a software company. Yes, the technology is there and is going to do the lion's share of the work in terms of the platform, but we all know that it's really important to have the expertise on how to optimize the engagement. Otherwise, these things can fall flat. And that's what our team does. They'll work closely with you. Most of our folks on our team come from a healthcare background, whether it's pharmaceutical, medical device, medical communication companies. They have a deep appreciation for the fact that this technology is going to reach out and touch a lot of your key customer segments, whether they be the key thought leaders that are in your advisory boards, whether it be you're talking with patients and caregivers, whether you're talking with different payers around reimbursement. This is an extension of your organization. So it really needs to be tight in terms of way that it's operated, so that it provides a very positive user experience for all of the people that you invite into it. So here, this client, we made sure that everybody was familiar with the platform by doing orientation. We did a virtual session, with these opportunities to kind of get, trained up on the platform for both the advisors and the moderators, so that when the time comes to kick it off with a 1 hour webcast and then, the following 2 weeks of online discussion, everybody was very familiar with it. When they got those invitations, they were keen to accept it. And as you'll see, they participated in it to a great degree. So again, in here, if you've ever been a part of an online course that you're taking through a university, or you've participated in something as basic as a Facebook post or a LinkedIn post, you're familiar with how discussion threads work, right? There's usually a stimulus, whether that's a question or a picture, and then people start to comment on it. The difference here is that you're asking very specific questions. These were around, chronic balance disorder. And then, some of the data questions around the clinical trials and what is the current standard of care. So you can be very pointed and focused in terms of the questions that you asked. And because that discussion thread is there, you're going to end up seeing, advisor 1, advisor 2, advisor 3 coming in and going back and forth with those questions. Because it's not enough just to get a single response. You're really trying to replicate what happens in live forums where there's a healthy debate going on. There is a come to consensus moment. There is a need to kind of collect some data around ratings and rankings, or true or false, or kind of multiple choice. So you can kind of do all those things in these environments. And we obviously see you have users that kind of gravitate towards this. And what's interesting is you look at kind of the way that the people are, and you have your extroverts of the world. Kim made the point before. I'm sure we've all been part of discussions where they're just dominated by, let's say, an alpha, kind of talker or debater. But there's a lot of, from an introvert perspective, right? Some folks really might want to take the time to digest that question, digest that slide deck, digest the way that the conversation has evolved. So in doing so, you're providing a forum for both of those personality types to be able to take the time necessary to fully articulate themselves in the written word, or in most cases, they can also enable the Dragon medical dictation function, so they can actually use the voice to text feature, that is available in our software as well. So here you're seeing, these questions were highly trafficked. This led to very, very deep, rich insights for this particular client. So again, we see this a lot, right? You have different behavior patterns, right? And so if we had to try and find a time slot that was going to work for everyone, it would be really difficult to do that, right? And so these overtime asynchronous forums cater to the fact that some of the users are early morning risers and like to get in an hour or two, before the day starts. Others are logging in multiple times throughout the day. Others wait until the evening hours to do more logins. So you see this vary greatly over a course of, the thousands of sessions that we do on an annual basis, because again, multiple time zones, people are across the country or across the globe. So it's just an important element to be cognizant of. Qualitatively, we've been doing this for about, a little over 10 years, and we've worked with clinicians all over the world. We've worked with physicians as old as kind of the 90-year-old KOL. We recently ran a session with newly diagnosed atopic dermatitis patients. I think that were around 12 or 13 years old. So again, there's a pretty wide aperture in terms of the types of people that have come into contact with this software, and pretty much all of them are in agreement that, hey, this was a great way for us to get our work done. This was a fantastic experience for us. I got to come in, engage with my peers, engage with like-minded individuals like myself. It was around a topic around my expertise that, germane to my expertise. And this is something I would like to do again. This is something I would like to, I would recommend to my peers, because the format was conducive to me getting the work done, at my pace within the time frame that was prescribed, and ultimately, it was an experience I'd like to repeat. So Kim, I think you'll take us back through, but again, I think at the end of the day, that was kind of pre-launch. We do see things across the typical product lifecycle. and Kim will get a little deeper into some of the use cases that we see fairly regularly.
Yeah, again, being able to utilize the Within3 platform across the enterprise is extremely important to any medical device company, whether you're still in product development. And my next slide that you'll actually see, talks specifically about that, where you're just designing your product, where you're wanting to get product feedback and you're in clinical trials at this point in time. Device training is huge. I have a client that used to bring all of their physicians internally to work on cadavers, to train on a new procedure or a new device. And obviously that's just not going to happen anymore. So how are we going to change training and education on a device? How are we going to change HCP awareness on a new procedure that might be available? So we have the capability not only on the product development, the medical education side, and I think, and I guess this comes from 29 years of being rep in the medical device industry. I think the reps, fortunately or unfortunately, are kind of being forgotten about because companies are just trying to stay open at this point in time. And they're trying to not have to lay off too many of the reps that are currently in the field. So how do we, again, as the device companies continue to roll out new devices, as they continue to roll out new procedures, how do we get the reps up to speed to make sure that, again, once they are possibly allowed back into clinics, who knows about the OR, are they going to have the understanding and the education that you need to have to be able to teach that new device or be able to teach that new product? And finally, on a commercial side, if you're developing new marketing materials and you want to get feedback on those materials, what a great way to be able to add that out onto an ongoing discussion thread and allow that feedback to come in over time. So I talked just briefly about bringing a new product to market. This actually came from the FDA. As we develop and to validate, we design a new product, we study the product, we move out into the regulatory discussions, the clinical trials being one of the most important things. I worked for the company where we did clinical trials in the operating rooms, on ICU floors. It was a cardiac product, and during the clinical trial period, the feedback that we got was invaluable to how the product was being able to move forward, how it was going to be rolled out, what the decisions were going to be made when it came down to product launch. And so again, being able to gather that information, being able to print out transcripts of this information, being able to have executive summaries written of this information is vital, specifically to a new product launch as well. So one of the things, what's even better than just engaging your stakeholders? I think that's one of the things that we really need to address. And I think the ability is to continuous stakeholder engagement. So not just R&D, not just marketing and communications, not just training and education, being able to utilize this type of platform across the enterprise so that everybody is being able to participate in these asynchronous discussions, I think is huge as we continue to move forward in this digital world that we're all now moving to. And again, specifically to the medical device industry, where everything was usually hands-on, whether it was hands-on training, hands-on education, being able to move this into an educational platform that people can come in and participate at their convenience, I think is invaluable at this point in time. So Peter, follow up with that?
Muted again. No, Kim, I think you said it nicely. Hopefully this is something that spurred some thought on behalf of the folks in the audience. We'd welcome any additional questions, or if you want to see a true demo of how this technology works, we're more than happy to set up some time for that as well.
Yeah, and I appreciate those of you that I've already reached out to, and we've got meetings set up both tomorrow and into next week as well. There'll be short meetings, but I will take you through a full demo of the platform to let you actually see how it works in person, and I'm excited to talk with each and every one of you. Sam and Ben, we'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Kim. And as Kim just said, if you are interested in organizing a quick 10 to 15 minute introductory call demonstration, we are available. You can contact myself, Sherry, Victor, and our team, and we can definitely connect you with Kim right away. So thank you again, gentlemen.
Thank you.